Hey, this is Courtney Sheffield, your recruiter's favorite recruiter, and this is Courtney's Corner. And today we have Miss Jennifer Gentry. Introduce yourself to the people.
My name's Jennifer Gentry. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and then I also work in substance use and mental health treatment for Long Leaf Recovery and Wellness, and I'm their outreach coordinator for the North Alabama area.
Oh, I love it. So, Jennifer, how did we get here?
So I got sober in 2018. Actually went back to jail, and that's what actually got me back into recovery. I never tried to get into recovery for 19 years until the last time when I lost custody of my child.
Oh, man. Oh, my. So that really is like a light bulb clicked. Something has to change, right?
So you would think that, but with addiction, it doesn't work like that.
Okay.
I was definitely that parent that showed up for my child. I took her to school. I was always drunk and high when I took her to school. Any dance recitals, ball games, all that, I was always drunk and high. And even when I lost custody, there was still a sense of relief because I knew she would be okay. She was with my parents. They took custody. And so through that process, I just missed my child so much. And I just could not put the drugs and the alcohol down. And there was a point that I started trying to stop on my own, but then I would have to use again because I would start the withdrawal process. And eventually, it was a few days before I got busted the last time. I knew something was fixing to happen. I didn't know what was fixing to happen. I just knew there was something coming. And at that point, it was a couple of days later that my last arrest happened, and went to jail for 23 or 26 days, which was enough time for me to start having the emotions and the feelings come back of like, what have I done?
Wow.
Got sent to a sober living for a year, mandated by the court systems in Coleman County. Stayed there, finally got into recovery. But even at that, when I first got there, it was probably about 6 months before the changes really started. And I was like, okay, I'm really ready for recovery. Because I was going through all the emotions, because I thought if I could just get back home, I could change these things.
Yeah.
But that wasn't it. I needed to work on the inside. I needed to let God start healing me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what did that healing process look like?
So for me, there was not a treatment aspect in sober living. And that's where a lot of people get confused when they get mandated with the court system, because the court says, hey, I'm sending you to treatment. And that's the misjustice for the client actually go, because in their mind, they think they're going to treatment.
Yeah.
So the requirements there was you get a job, you work the steps through Alcoholics Anonymous, or either it can be another 12-step meeting, which is NA. The one that I was sent to was Alcoholics Anonymous, which I still do today. And I got a sponsor. They always tell you get a sponsor that you can relate to, that's been through some of the same struggles that you had been. And that sponsor at that time had been through a lot of the same things that I had been through, lost rights to her children. And that was a big thing for me, because even though I had been in active addiction for so long, I was always there with my child. So I had that maternal instinct with her, being with her versus not had seen her for 5 or 10 years. And I think that's really what pushed me. And it always gave me that hope that I can get back to her. And I'd come out of a horrible relationship of 9 years. So dating was off the grid for me. It was focused on my child and the relationships back with my parents. And that really happens a lot of times, that people, when they first get into recovery, they want to get back into dating. For me, that was not an option. I didn't date for probably 3.5, close to 4 years. But that's what I needed to do for myself.
Right.
Because I had been in relationship after relationship. But like I said, I had got a sponsor. I started working the steps and realizing for so many years I didn't have that self-love. And through that process, I found self-love back and really found my own understanding of my higher power, which I do call God.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I had went to church and I had learned about that God that's in church. And prime example, I just visited church the other day, and another lady and I with this mental health resource fair that we're doing, we asked them, where do you send people? If your congregation comes to you, they need help with substance use, mental health treatment, what do you do? And they're like, well, we don't just obligate things for that. And me and her both were like, okay, the world we live in today, that part is very big now.
It is. Because people mask. And just like you said, you know, you were still showing up for your baby, but you still was fighting this demon inside, right? So people mask. So when they're going to church and when they're showing up still, they're hurting. Let me say that. They're hurting and they need that help. So those opportunities are great. Those opportunities are necessary.
Yeah. And it was, and even at that point, so her and I both start asking these questions about substance use and mental health treatment. And she names off out of 5 preachers, 1 preacher that helps with this. And she said, but, you know, he's not here. And we said, okay, well, can we leave some stuff? And about that time he walks in, and me and her both look at each other and we're like, that's just God. God placed him back here at this time to be able to talk to us about mental health treatment and substance use treatment.
Absolutely. So, I love it. I love it. Hey guys, thank you so much for being so supportive and watching Courtney's Corner. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month. Make sure that you take care of you. Make sure that you go seek a therapist if that's what you need to do. If you need to journal, if you need to get a counselor, make sure that this month you take care of your mind. And also, if you guys would like to be a part of Courtney's Corner Podcast, shoot us an email, CourtneyCornerPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much. So implementing those things in the church are very important. And you do that in the community. How has that been for you? What's the impact been like for that?
So I've really just kind of been touching my toes with it now, especially because of this mental health resource fair. And even my own struggles with mental health. My daughter's father actually committed suicide. And I watched him struggle with being bipolar and his mental health. And so, you know, just a long time ago, most people just didn't talk about it.
Right.
And now I've noticed a lot more people are talking about it. You know, there's so many of us that has anxiety, has depression. And so it seems like more people are out to talk about it nowadays, which is good because it's happening. Right. Just like with substance use. But sometimes it seems like that some churches are still shut down to it. You know, they don't want it in your church, but if you look around, it's everywhere.
It's definitely in there.
Everywhere. And I always say when somebody says, I don't want to be around that addict, and I'm like, what does the addict look like? Because addicts are judges, they're lawyers, they're nurses, they're doctors. You know, that's me, that's my people, you know. So
I love that. I love that. So what is one thing that you tell individuals that you come in contact with that is actually fighting or dealing with this issue?
I can always tell people, like, for myself, if I can get sober and stay sober, you can.
Absolutely.
You know.
It's a fight.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to fight.
Absolutely. Every day I wake up, I have to pray to God and ask him to continue my sobriety. Every night before I go to bed, I ask God and I thank him for my sobriety that day. Throughout the day, I still thank him. You know.
I love it. You know, people say you got to die to yourself. You got to die every day. No, you have to die every 50 seconds. Like, you know, because your mind, right? But one thing you said to me, you said that you shut off dating. Self-love. Let's talk about that journey. Because, you know, most people think healing is just a beautiful thing. But in healing, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's talk about that part. Identifying the self-love. How did you begin to love Jennifer again?
It was a process.
Absolutely.
I mean, an absolute process. So at the sober living that I had went to, we had these graduates that would come back on Wednesday night for aftercare with the director. And I would hear about certain one of them getting into a relationship too early. And I would sit back and I would think, I don't want that. I don't want that. Like, I want to be ready and I want God to bring it. And there would be times, like, throughout that process of about the 3.5 years. So I'd put a limit on like 2 years, then I'll start dating. And they say it's easier to date somebody in recovery, but is it really? I don't know. Because it's definitely been a process for me. Just knowing that I needed time to heal. I didn't go from a marriage of 7 years to him committing suicide to jumping straight into another relationship months later, like 2 or 3 months after I divorced, to dating another year, to dating somebody for 9 years. I never had that break of just being okay with Jennifer. And so once I was able to truly love myself again, I could be single.
Yeah.
And it's easy, you know. I mean, you can, and I do it all the time, which my job requires me throughout the state of Alabama, working and out of state. Like, I go to restaurants by myself. I can go on a trip by myself.
Absolutely.
I can go sit on the beach for 8 hours by myself. I don't need somebody else to tell me, I love you. Like, I love myself, and that's enough for me. So
I absolutely love that. And you said that Judges, you were talking about what does an addict look like. And you don't necessarily have to be addicted to drugs.
No.
Because I was addicted to love, right? And that's the same thing, like wanting to be loved. And so hopping from relationship to relationship, you know what I'm saying, to fill a void. So it's the same thing. And then with the self-love with me, I really had to sit down and God had to show me who I was. I had to deal with my weaknesses. I had to deal with my strengths. And I have to turn my weaknesses into my strengths so that I can move forward, you know, and not be afraid of the weaknesses, not be afraid of the things that are going wrong, but God, how can we fix this together, right? So identifying that. So I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And like you said, now it's easy being single. It is a crave companionship, but I'm not addicted to it. Does that make sense? I don't necessarily have to have it in my life, because when God does fill a void, people, that's just not a saying. God actually fills the void for us in areas. And sometimes we need to be in our healing and single season so that we can be able to hear his voice, to know what's more important is being in a relationship or doing what you're called to do.
Yeah.
You need clarity.
Yep.
Not saying don't go for love, because I feel like, you know, everyone, God has someone here for everyone, but you need clarity. And sometimes you need those moments of isolation so that you can thrive and be who he's called you to be.
Of course.
So I love that. So how's your relationship with your daughter?
It is amazing.
I love it.
She actually just turned 22 last month, and I'm just like, where did time go? But, you know, it's crazy.
Yes.
I mean, it's so good now. You know, like when she gets off of work, she calls me. On the weekends, she calls me. She still lives where I used to live. But it's good.
I love it.
It's good. I think our relationship is absolutely better now that I've been sober than, of course, when she was younger.
I love it.
She can come to me when she's struggling, when she's not struggling, and just, she knows that I'm going to be blunt and honest. But,
And that's what we need.
Yeah.
We need.
Because I'm such an honest, blunt
My
person.
mom is cutthroat. You know, you said blunt and honest. I have a cutthroat mom. I love that. I love that. So what was that process like with getting back, you know, to building that relationship again?
So I didn't get custody rights signed back over until I had been sober. Let's see, I got arrested at 15. It was probably about 6 months before she turned 18. So, like, I had to accept that I may not get my custody rights back, but it never meant that I was not her mother again, because I really struggled with it. Because there's definitely, I think, trauma that goes involved when a mom loses their custody rights, whether it was their own fault or not.
Right.
And with addiction, it's just a process in itself. But it's just such a process. That's all I can touch on. It's just a process.
I love it. I love it. But look at God. He redeemed the time.
Yeah.
Because you have your baby back. You have your relationship with your child. And you are still sober. How long have you been sober?
I got sober February 20th, 2018. I just celebrated 7 years this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So dealing, you go into court systems, right? So let's touch on that a little bit, because you guys have this fair coming up, and there's a lot of other things that you're doing. So that's why I was like, Jennifer, you got to come on the podcast. So let's talk about that a little bit, about how not only have you been sober for 7 years, but you're helping others become sober, and you're giving back to the community. That says a lot about your heart.
Yeah, and let me tell you, there's days it's processed too.
You don't have to tell me. I know.
Especially dealing with the family members. To me, that's the hardest, because us addicts, we make our family members as sick as we are.
Ooh.
And I have just finished dealing with a case that the husband would continue reaching out to me, and I had to make sure that releases were signed. Because if a release isn't signed, I can't speak with you. I can't confirm nor deny that
I love that. Right.
Your loved one's even in treatment, even though I spoke to you for 6 weeks prior to your person admitting with us. And so That part I think is a lot more difficult than actually working with a client, which I don't do client care with me doing outreach. So I'm pretty much the first on hand when they make those calls, because I'll turn it over to admissions and we'll work it all the way.
I'm sorry to cut you, but that is so important. You're the initial contact. You're the initial contact, and you know what it feels like. So you give them that hope.
Yes.
You give them that that push. This is what you need. I love that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to touch on that.
You're good. So like I said, I'm typically the first contact unless they call admissions. And sometimes you may be on a call for 2 minutes, or it could be an hour. Speaking with the client.
Absolutely.
Because most of the time there's so much fear. A person, if they have been sober and they've relapsed, there's so much shame and guilt that goes back with that, because it was, why didn't I stay sober this time? And, you know, am I going to get it this time? And luckily for me, and I tell people all the time, like, I never tried to get sober. When I first got sober, I've continued to stay sober, but that doesn't always happen with everyone else. It may be the 5th time, it might be the 20th time, but as long as you keep pushing and trying, you know, it's going to stick eventually.
I love that. I love that. Never get up. You have to have endurance. I love it.
And so once we make that contact, we are commercial insurance. We process all that. We do same-day admissions. And they can get started with us the following day. So we're a very fast process. And with addiction and mental health, it's the snap of a finger. If you talk to somebody, 10 minutes later, they could change their mind, you know, and then they're back getting high. So it's crucial to answer your phone, get that person connected with our admissions office, and get them started into recovery or either mental health treatment.
I love it.
So, because we do both.
I love it. So tell us a little bit more about the mental health fair that you guys have.
So it's May 15th from 10 to 12. It's at our facility, Longleaf Wellness, over in Hoover. We actually are going to have a speaker that's graduated our program to talk about their journey of mental health. We've got the mental health courts here in Jefferson County going to speak. The director on how mental health will affect clients and how they get into the court system as well. That struggle. We have someone else that is going to share a little bit of their own story that ended up getting an addiction as well, but they stated that if they had been able to get mental health treatment, they would have probably never had a substance use background as well. So they're going to tell a little bit about their story. Right now, I think we have over 25 vendors. We're going to have some food for the community. So just really celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month, because that's here in May.
I love it.
And I love we're both wearing green.
Yes, we're wearing green for mental health. I love it. So what is something that you would like to leave with the people? I want you to leave your information just in case someone needs that treatment, that needs that push. But what was something that you would like to leave with someone who's dealing with what you dealt with?
Talk about it. The more that we talk about it, it lessens the stigma around addiction and mental health. I absolutely would love my number posted. If you need somebody to talk to, it doesn't matter what time, day or night. My phone's always available.
I love that. I love that. Awesome. So how can they get in touch with the center?
So they can contact me, and I'll give you that phone number. My cell number is 256-294-3371. Or our admissions is 205-813-7400.
Okay, awesome. And give them the name one more time of the facility.
It's Longleaf Recovery and Wellness, and we're off of Hoover.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Jennifer, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for your yes, because I know it took a lot out of you, but you're giving back, so that means a lot. So thank you so much, you guys. We will catch you next week, and make sure that if you need help, that you reach out to Miss Jennifer Gentry. She will be there for you, and so will Longleaf. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem.